Hello, I trust you're all having a beautiful day. And wow, I can hear that rain hitting the window. I don't know if it'll come through on the microphone, and it's blustery and not the best of weathers to be outside, but hey, we're not outside. We're nicely in the warm, but did another one of these activities with the Energy Flow tribe today, and we all went to a play area, and I climbed up this structure. It's sort of like, I looked at it to start with. I thought, well, where's the ladder? And it's like you've got to climb inside it, and then you go down the tube. The first time, it's like, oh, it's so windy up here, and it's like, now I'm aware of the outside, and I'm feeling a bit of fear. I'm so high up. I'm not used to this. It's like, down we go again. It's like, no, you got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So thank you, Stephen. Gave me these sort of encouragements, and I went up and I went down the tube, come out, and it was great fun. The inner child. Isn't it amazing how, just watch young children, and there's a perfect example of this negative affirmations. It's like the child is enjoying playing, and there's an adult there going, put your coat on, put your gloves on, you'll feel cold. Well, no, the child doesn't feel cold. They're too immersed in the playing, and it's not going to hurt them, but it's something that's programmed in, and then, of course, before we know it, we're doing it, and we're putting coats on and feeling the cold. Anyway, to the point of this video. This is coming straight off the back of watching Lana Labonte's latest video, and she did that thing with the quotation marks. I can't do both hands because I'm holding a camera, but I don't know if maybe you've heard me mention on videos, like specifically the Great Pyramid of Giza is a perfect example that those white outer casing stones is basically like the enamel on the teeth. It's a architectural representation of us. So the quotation marks, think about this. Look at you see them everywhere around the world. The older buildings, that Greco-Romano style. There'll be city halls, there'll be courtrooms, town halls, generally buildings of like authority, government buildings and things. And you've got that classic sort of entrance. You've got the triangle above, and then you've got pillars, and you get this basically a close spacing between the two of the pillars to make a narrower left and right side, and then a slightly bigger between the two central pillars, which is the middle path. It's an architectural representation, and thank you, Lana, for just sort of like, oh yeah, now I see what that's showing. You spot it, you got it, you see. And so when we do these quotation marks, like there's a little gap there, but then you've got this big bit. It's taking that middle path. But you are the authority, because you are building, you are the architect, you are the grand architect of. You're given a structure, but then you have to go through, just like it's shown in religions, a reformation. You reform yourself. And you claim that responsibility over yourself. You become your own authority. No one can be more of an authority on you than you, because you're the first person experiencer of whatever happens to you, which of course is karma, which is your doing. So whatever you do, whatever external script, in whatever form it comes that is presented to you, this is where you've got to use your discernment. And am I going to take this script and run with it and jump into playing a part, or am I going to be more discerning? See, discern. No accident with any of these words, so don't concern yourself about fear things. You've got in this reality a baseline frequency which is quite low vibration, and it will just operate at that level. And if you're operating at that low fear level, that low state, low energy, you'll be sucked along by the default programming. It'll carry you with it. You're allowing yourself to be carried with it because you're believing all these scripts that are being presented to you. You're feeling fear of the invisible this and the thing that you don't actually know to be true, but it's just a rumor and a story, but you're feeling it because you believe it, because you're going with it. Well, everybody else is talking about it, so it must be true because they've all seen it on the news. The fact that it's miles and miles away and probably on a completely different continent and no one can actually verify it and say, I have actually seen it for myself. So we build up these stories around these things. It's quite ridiculous and in some ways amusing. It is a divine comedy. But this reality is like an energy vampire. So it's all about devouring. So I look inside myself for the answer again. Now, if I put just hypothetically, I put a blue flame peppercorn sauce steak inside the stomach, and then I put a sugary donut, what do you reckon is going to be the easier job for the stomach to process and digest? It's going to leave the steak and go straight for the donut, and it's like, oh, sugary stuff, something sweet and easy to sort of devour and break down. And it's like, can't be bothered with the steak, and before you know it, instead of an expanded consciousness, you have an expanded physicality. So this reality is feeding on low vibration energy. So when you are in that low vibration state, you're basically a donut. And that is a sort of derogatory expression to call someone in the UK, oh, they're a complete donut. And of course, ring donuts, where they're running rings around you because you're giving away your power. You're allowing something to feed on you because it's keeping you in fight or flight, faint or fawn. And it's not a pleasant energy to be in, and it's like one disaster to another and chasing your tail, as it were. And it doesn't allow any time to say, hold on a minute, I need time to process. Because that's exactly what happens with food. The natural way is you digest and you process. It goes through your system rather than you being processed by a external system, which is just a sort of held together concept by the mind. But when something solidifies in the mind, it comes out in this reality in a solidified form, like a city hall or a town hall, and we're back to that shape and that the two quotation marks and the taking that middle path, the yin and the yang symbol, following that very fine line that separates the two, and just seeing that it is what it is. And as soon as you label it and have a judgment on it, let me give you another scenario, and this comes off the back of an Alan Watts podcast, where he basically talks about the priests and the religious leaders of, say, 1300, how much power they had because it was a structured organization power, and how they're going to beat the devil out of you, and if the devil won't come out there, set fire to you, but it's from a place of love, so they believe. And it's going to hurt them more than it'll hurt you, that sort of thing. But then we've now moved into this post-Freud psychology world, where now it's the psychiatrists and things. And if you don't conform to the societal materialist view, then you're a bit of a crank, you're crazy. And So, in a way, you could say that you have an opportunity there to be playing the part of a living Christ or playing a part of Jesus, because you will sacrifice yourself for the sins of the world, as it were. So, if you're true to yourself, potentially, and I'm not suggesting this because I want this to happen to you, and I don't want you to take no thought. It also says, Christ says, take no thought. But I'm using this as an analogy here. So, if you are your authentic self and you are then faced with, right, we're going to put you in a mental hospital and we're going to confine you, would you go along with that? If you had no choice in the matter because a psychiatrist has rubber stamped his authority that you're not safe to be out in the outside world because you're crazy or whatever, and they feel you're a threat. See, really, the only escape would be to go further in oneself, and this is the paradox. The universe that opens up within is far greater than this physical one. And within this physical one, how far can you really get? And that is implied that with these, on the sort of pretense of environmental things, there's experimental things taking place, I think, in Oxford and a few other cities or towns are following suit, so it'll start restricting your movements. You see, the material world will present you something. It's going to take away your freedom, it's what it's saying, but it's actually the paradox, because it is actually saying to you to find your freedom within yourself. The external world is going to do whatever, and you can see it as being evil, you can see it as being good, you can see beauty in a lot of it. It's just perception. But if you see something as good, there's going to be a contrast. And really, it's like the suggested presentation of evil in this world will ramp up the more people that start walking their spiritual path, becoming their authentic self, because it will balance and reflect and mirror. So you've got to ask yourself, how far are you prepared to go? Are you prepared to go to the ultimate with this? Because this is only from a mortal perspective. Say you ended up confined in a mental hospital, and you've lost all your human rights and all your freedoms, and you're not going anywhere. But you could sort of leap out the body. You could look. Alan Watts says about when you realise that you are God, there is a button called surprise, and here you are. And of course, we forget who we are to play the game. But there's nothing to stop you pressing that button again. Now, I'm not advocating committing suicide, but any thought that you put out into this reality will come back. The reality, this external world, will match the frequency that you put out. You radiate out a magnetic energy in your toroidal field. Now, whether your energy is being pulled to match a low vibration frequency, or whether you are vibrating at the higher frequency, this is what it's going to come down to. If you're at the higher vibration, even if you press that surprise button, nothing's actually going to hurt you. Nothing has hurt you. You just find yourself with a bit of a surprise, and you come out as a baby into this world, normally like going, and crying for the first year, because you think, oh dear, why did I press that button? But of course, as you start to grow, you've got generational sins making the same repeat patterns, doing what the previous generation did. They thought they were doing right, but it's negative default programming. and all the things that are associated with that. But you can change the polarity on this, and the higher you vibrate, the more that external presentation you can rewrite and overwrite. A classic example is today. Like it's doing now, it was raining, and it's like, no, there's not just one person going to this fun park to go on the swings and go down the slide and things. There's a whole group of us. It's like we can manifest the F out of this and we can get some blue skies and sunshine. And sure enough, that's what we did. Long enough to at least enjoy the experience. I don't think any one of us gave any thought to trying to calm the wind, but there were points where that you either lose the awareness of the wind because you're enjoying the moment and being more like the child who is totally oblivious to the wind and the cold and is just enjoying playing. But that is part of that negative default programming, to take the fun out of the thing. So we take life seriously. But remember, that tennis player, John McEnroe, kept saying, you cannot be serious. He kept muttering this saying it quite loud, and of course, why do you think the attention was on that? Why do you think that the television cameras all went to focus on that? It's a message for humanity. If you see what this external world is presenting, it's just showing you contrast. It's showing you that it is a world stage. You're an actor or an actress in this massive film that is being played out. Now, what type of an actor are you? Are you going to take just some cheap garbage reality show or going to appear in a soap? Or are you going to be a bit more of a discerning actor and have a look at the script first and think, this is not for me. Or, actually, I could write something better than this. And I could still appear in the drama, shall we call it. I'm not being triggered and associating drama with something negative. A drama is any sort of thing that plays out, really. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. But again, it comes down to, are we putting judgment on it? It's just a drama. Now, if you're writing your own script, taking control of the character that you're acting, you can still take part in the drama, and you have this flexibility. This is the free will. You can change it, and you can also influence the entire sort of drama in like a local theatre level that is playing out around you. It's a pretty amazing freedom when you start seeing from this perspective and looking at it in this way, and it's like we're all actors on a world stage, and things are definitely staged. There's no two ways about it, and of course, theatres of war and so on. All these little sideshows, they're all shows. They're all presentations. It's just some are labelled specifically as entertainment, some are labelled as news, there's nothing new about it, it's cyclical and repeats. Some of it is labelled as scientific discovery or whatever. They're just labels, but they are all external presentations to just take a look at. And there's a fine line between judgment and preference. You could have two watercolour paintings and you'll prefer one than the other. It's not exactly a judgment, it's just something in that painting will appeal to you more than the other one. But it doesn't make either of them good or bad. It's just personal preference. But then if you crank it up and it's like, that one's wrong, and you're making a judgment and you're trying to influence others on your judgments on it. And when things become collectively agreed by a minority, which is then imposed on everybody else and becomes a sort of formal structure. That's when the problem starts. It takes away the individual freedom. It becomes a control system. The definition of evil, one that wants to have power and control over another or many. Instead of having master and control over themselves, they outwardly project that lack of control of themselves, which, from my perception, when I look at the ones that will be seeming to be controlling this world, obviously money and greed would seem to be the driving force. And to maintain that control, they have to keep feeding that monster. They need more money. They have to create more interest to be able to get more interest from that money. And it's just the way this world is. But you don't have to be in that mindset, and you don't have to follow that path. It's not a particularly good one. It's not a particularly pleasant one. How unrewarding would it be if money was no object and you could have everything instantly, just at a click of a fingers? Eternity would be very boring. Okay, maybe from just a mortal perspective, but if you've created something, surely you want to experience what you've created. And henceforth, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, the fall of man as it is often described, and became fragmented. The broken heart, as True Love channel says, talks about it from that perspective, and that's quite right. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You'll probably find that the circles that you are in, there's soul recognition, and you've probably had many, many lives with the people that resonate mostly with you. It's like finding an old friend again. I'm sure if you've had this experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it comes down to that analogy I used about going from sitting to standing. It would take so long to try and write it out, but the experience of it, you know it. It's not even really given a thought. That is God, as a co-creator, as an individual expression of the creator as a co-creator. It's like instant. You don't have to put any thought into it. It just is. It just happens. It's something you've mastered. So if we can master the physical body in that way, what about the emotions and all the rest of it? And can we master those inside ourselves? Are we captain of our vessel? Are we sitting in the throne room, as it were? But this is just like a lighthouse, of course, because it all comes down to the heart. Which, what are we up to? 23 minutes. Yeah, so I'm going to end on this one now. Next time you do a meditation, whatever way you do it, think your way through the mind. Go down, I think it's the vagus nerve. Go down to the heart. And just go inward, really go inward, go to the center of your own heart. And I'm not going to give a spoiler alert. All I'm going to say is I'm inviting you to try it for yourself. Maybe do it as a group, maybe on your own. And just see what opens up. And you open that door. That is your gatekeeper. Ooh, gatekeepers, fear. No. The gatekeeper, if you are God, you created everything. So the gatekeeper you also created. But you can flip the polarity. That gatekeeper that is stopping you from doing things, from experiencing things, not facing things, you can now turn into a fiery angel that is now a guardian that is discerning as to what you let in. The circle that you associate with, what resonates? Are you putting on a false persona to fit in with a certain group and you're not really happy with that group? Well, be honest with yourself. Or are you going to be fearful of being all one, alone? It's all just contrasts. It's all about spiritual growth. It's actually a beautiful experience. It's like, how would you know about contrast? How would you know about good and bad? How would you know about what material is? How would you know what solid is? Time and space, it separates everything. You've got space separating the stars, otherwise how would you know if it was a star or many stars? And here's the other paradox. You realize that you are in this world but not of this world. But at the same time, with that awareness, there is a distinction where you can separate yourself from the physical body, but at the same time, and this is the paradox, you realize that you are not separate from anything around you, from the stars, from the earth. It's all connected, it is all flowing through you. You're just a sort of midway point, you're on the middle earth after all, and you're the conduits between the above and the below and weighing things up. You're on that yin and yang line, that very fine line between the two, the dark and the light. And just being neutral and accepting, well, if I go all over here, it's going to create, this is an Einstein saying, it creates an opposite and an equal reaction. So as the good ramps up, the presentation from the fear side will also ramp up. So ask yourself, how far are you prepared to go with this? Are you going to be all in? Or are you just going to dip your toe in the water and then, oh no, I'll go back in, and carry on torturing yourself and living a lie and lying to yourself about trying to fit in with that material world? Or are you going to create a world around you? You are a co-creator, so realize that you are gods and goddesses and start acting as gods and goddesses in this worldwide film show stage. It's a beautiful production, and of course it's so varied. You don't have to be typecast. You can play many parts, you can play multiple parts all at the same time. How fun that is, eh? How wonderful it all becomes that you can do all this and you can create it as you go. And you're not hiding behind corners and fearful of trying to dodge something. You just, whatever comes towards you depends on what you're radiating out. That is your karma. It'll be your own doing. No one else to blame except yourself. Go for it. Press that button. Press that surprise button. See what happens. Surprise, surprise, is what they say, isn't it? So you pressed it once, that's why you're here. So press it again and see what happens. What do you got to lose? Do you want to stay in your perception of the reality as it is? Or do you want to take that chance and take a leap of faith into the unknown? There's your free will. Up to you what you do. But I hope whatever decision you make will be from your own internal digestion, your own internal process of your own system. Listen to what the body is communicating, and what's in the body? It's the heart as well. It all comes from the heart. So yeah, also go in that meditation and go to the center of your heart. I think you'll be pretty amazed, and it will open up. Well, you'll see. Love to you all.